So here I was asked to factorize fully each of the following expressions. So firstly, if I want to factorize this, well, the four ways I have of factorizing are, the first is highest common factor. Sometimes we call it HCF, highest common, where we take out the highest common factor that goes into both of them. The next one is grouping. So grouping is usually when we have four terms and there's each pair, two terms have a common thing and then the other two have a common thing. And then 3 is the difference of two squares, so we'd have two square numbers, difference of two squares. And then the last one is quadratic. So quadratics have something, an x squared, an x, and something that doesn't have an x. So the one that we're going to use here is highest common factor. So we're going to take out the highest thing that divides into both 7x and minus 21y. There's not going to be any kind of x's or y's that divide into both of them because they both don't have an x, they both don't have a y. So the highest number that divides into both of them is 7. So when I divide 7x by 7, I'm left with x, and when I divide this by 7, I'm left with minus 3y. So that is that one factorized, and then I'm going to want to part B, so it's x squared minus 25. So highest common factor, they both don't have a highest common factor. Grouping, that's usually four terms. Difference of two squares, so I think that one's going to work for this one. So I have one thing, so if I have to learn this off, that if I have one thing squared, one thing all squared, minus another thing all squared, it's the first thing minus the second thing by the first thing plus the second thing. So that's something that needs to be known. We need to learn that off. So this isn't looking like one thing squared minus another thing squared at the moment, but we can change this so it's one thing squared minus another thing squared, because 25 is just 5 squared. So we can write that as x all squared minus 5 all squared. And now that it's in that format, I can write it as x minus 5, x plus 5. So that's it, done. And then the next question is x, so this is part C, x squared minus x minus 6. So this is a quadratic because it has an x squared, an x, and something that doesn't have an x. So what I want is the two numbers that multiply to give the term that doesn't have an x. Two numbers that multiply to give the term that doesn't have an x, or in this case it is 6 minus 6, that give minus 6, but they add to give the what's attached to the x. So here, if there's nothing attached to it, there's no number, then we take it as a 1, but there's a minus attached to it, so they have to add to give minus 1, add to give minus 1. So say, how could I have got minus 6 by multiplying two things together? Well, if I multiplied two pluses together, I would have got a plus, but we have a minus, so I couldn't have multiplied two pluses. If I multiplied two minuses together, I also would have got a plus, so I couldn't have multiplied two minuses. I could only have multiplied a minus and a plus to get minus 6. So one of my answers will be a minus and the other will be a plus. So the factors of 6 are 6 and 1. So I could have had minus 6 and 1, or 6 by minus 1, and 2 and 3 as well. So I could have had minus 2 by 3 and 2 by minus 3. So if I add minus 6 and 1 together, I'll get minus 5. 6 take 1, I'll get 5. 3 take 2, I'll get 1. But 2 and minus 3, I'll get minus 1. So my factors are going to be, I'm going to put an x in one bracket, so x in each, and in the first one I'll put minus 3, and then, in the next one I'll put plus 2. And that is that question factorized. Hope you found this helpful. Thank you.